Alright guys, I'm back here with another video today and I'm going to talk about the Buffalo Sabers and whether or not I believe they can break their long playoff drought. And like I did with the Leafs and the Sens in this series, I kind of go through their roster and I'm just going to kind of see, whether or not it's good enough to make the playoffs. And for me, with this, the roster I have that I've written down here is just kind of the projected lines and projected defense pairings and projected goaltending that I believe the players might be playing together, which ones would be doing that. So without further ado, let's get into it. First line, I have Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel, and Victor Olofsson. I think that's a very good line that has potential to be one of the best lines in the league, especially because Eichel's such a driving force. I think Taylor Hall is a guy who, if he's playing with a player as good as Jack Eichel, has potential to get back to his superstardom that he had a few years back when he won the Hart Trophy, as we know, when he had that year in 17-18 for the New Jersey Devils when he had 97 points. And Victor Olofsson, obviously, I think he's still an underrated player. I think he had a very good year last year, but now he has to prove that he can follow up on that. Sabres' second line, I think, will look something like Skinner, Stahl, and Reinhart. I think Jeff Skinner needs a bounce back year. If Buffalo's going to do anything, he needs to bounce back for sure. I think Eric Stahl brings some more stability down the middle despite being an older guy. Sam Reinhart, I don't think, has still shown his full potential quite yet. He may play center or wing. I have him on the wing in this case just because I think it better complements Stahl and Skinner. And then the third line, we have Dylan Cousins, Cody Eakin, and Kyle Okposo in the fourth line. Tobias Reeder, Zemgus Girgensons, and Curtis Lazar. In extras, I have Rasmus Asplund, Tage Thompson, Casey Mittelstadt, CJ Smith for extra forwards. And then on the back end, I have Rasmus Dahlin and Rasmus Ristolainen, Colin Miller, Brandon Montour, and Jake McCabe and Henry Jokiharju. Goaltending, probably Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark. I was going to say Jonas Ullmark. Jonas Johansson is the next goaltender in line for the Buffalo Sabres, along with Pekka Luukkonen. I think Luukkonen's probably more of the goalie of the future. And Buffalo's goaltending is going to have to be a lot better, too, if they're going to make the playoffs, because Carter Hutton, I don't really know if he's a bona fide number one goalie. I think he's a good backup goalie. He showed in St. Louis he could be a pretty good backup, almost like a 1A. But then when he got to Buffalo and became the full-time starter, it just never really has worked out for him so far these past 2 years. And he's going to have to show that he can be better going forward. And for defensive extras for the Buffalo Sabres, I have Casey Nelson, Brandon Davidson, Matt Irwin, Lawrence Pilot. I mean, I think that's a group that could definitely push for a spot for sure, especially Matt Irwin. He's been around. He might even play in that top six group of defensemen that I think will be playing most regularly. As for guys that are kind of wild cards, I mean, can Tage Thompson come in and really, prove his worth, prove why he was a higher pick in the draft? Dylan Cousins, same thing. They can get good contributions down the lineup from these young guys, plus have Taylor Hall bounce back, Jack Eichel be Jack Eichel as usual. Jeff Skinner has a bounce back year too, let's say, Olofsson continues his great stuff. Reinhart discovers that he can be a really great player in this league. Eric Stahl still finds some magic at his older age. Cody Eakin, he's a guy that I think when he's not taking 5-minute majors that cost his team. But all jokes aside, when he's on his game, I think he can be a good player. I think he's a guy who could potentially score 15 to 20 goals for Buffalo and be a real revelation for them. So if he's down in your lineup on your third line doing that in this case, I think that's going to be really great. Tobias Reeder is a guy who, despite really struggling these last couple of years, he keeps finding work in the NHL because of his speed. And for him, we have to remember that just a few years ago when he was playing for the Arizona Coyotes, I believe he scored 15 goals. So he is a guy that has some underrated offense too. And if he can discover that, I think Buffalo will be really well off. Curtis Lazar, same deal. One thing that's really stood out to me with the Sabres here is that they have a lot of guys who are playing under their potential. So if these younger players like Lazar, Reed, or Skinner, Reinhardt, if these guys discover their potential and play up to it and maybe even a little bit above it, I think, yes, Buffalo can finally break their playoff drought. They're going to need to play really well defensively. Even though this roster isn't really a superstar roster, I think it's a good enough roster just because of the fact they have Jack Eichel and Taylor Hall and Jeff Skinner. If he can be himself, like I said, that's really going to help matters too. Buffalo has some good pieces, and I think they finally have something to look forward to. And I know we've been saying that the last few years, and the Sabres have been one of the most frustrating teams in the league, probably for the better part of a decade now, almost. And I think, though, this is the year they could finally make the playoffs, especially if we do have a shortened season. That could really favor Buffalo. And for me, this defense group, I think it's okay. I think Colin Miller, too, if he can have a bounce back year on defense. Brandon Montour, like, Buffalo has some serious good pieces here. I'm serious. Like, they can really compete, I think. I don't think they're a Stanley Cup contender yet, don't get me wrong, but definitely they should be a playoff team. And if Ralph Kruger can get this team to buy into the system, play really well, good structured defensively, that's really going to help cover up maybe what could be a little bit of mediocre goaltending perhaps. But if the goalies are really on their game and Ralph Kruger's system is really kicking in, the guys are buying into that, and the players that I mentioned who are playing under their potential live up to their potential. Like I said, the Sabres could actually do something exciting for their fan base this year for the first time in a long time. But guys, that's all I have to say on this matter here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, especially if you're a Buffalo Sabres fan. Let me know if you're really excited about this roster. I think you guys have some good players coming, some good prospects. They're starting to draft more past the first round. I know the Sabres have been an absolute debacle these last few years with going through coaches and GMs, but hopefully now they found their guy in Kevin Adams to be their GM, and their coach Ralph Kruger I think is a great coach, and I really hope it works out for him in Buffalo. But please like and subscribe, guys, and share this video. And like I said, let me know what you think on the Sabres, even if you're a fan of any other team for that matter. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.